businesses, so
Wow.
270 alone just last year. So yeah, so it kind of is great because you can kind of get a trend and a feel and kind of get your boots on the ground and understand what the businesses are dealing with and kind of see how their day is going from their point of view. And so it helps to identify any trends, and then we can be proactive and look for resources to help them.
Yeah, I mean, that's really valuable. I mean, the fact that you are going to these businesses and interacting with them and getting a sense for what they need, I'm sure you'll have a lot of great information.
Call the special meeting of February 6, 2024 to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Beck?
Here.
Vice Mayor Edwards?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Crawford?
Here.
Councilmember Finn?
Here.
Councilmember Patena?
Here.
Councilmember Dunn?
Here.
Councilmember Schaefer?
Present.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Our only item on the agenda today is to call for executive session. Do I have a motion for executive session?
I'll motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please vote. And it is 7-0. Thank you. We will now recess for executive session. All right, I hereby call the February 6, 2024 study session to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Beck?
Here?
Vice Mayor Edwards?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Crawford?
Here.
Councilmember Finn?
Here.
Councilmember Patenna?
Here.
Councilmember Dunn?
Here.
Councilmember Schaefer?
Present.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Our only item on the agenda today is the presentation from Peoria's Public Works Department on Streets Division and on the Streets Division Pavement Management Program. That's a lot to say. I will now turn this over to staff for an update.
Rather than doing an intro, Kevin, I'll just have you all introduce yourselves and just jump right into it in the interest of time.
Thank you, Manager Darwin. Mayor and Council, thank you this evening. We are presenting the Pavement Management Program. Every 3 years, the city conducts a technical analysis of the streets of Peoria. Literally drives every single street in Peoria to assess their condition and then develop a pavement program. Mayor and Council's commitment to the pavement management program is really what has distinguished Peoria streets from the rest of the West Valley. It's this purposeful technical analysis with a purposeful plan for repair and maintenance that really sets us apart. Now, this year is even more challenging than in past years, once again due to inflation that we're seeing in a lot of our capital projects. Unfortunately, the pavement aspect gets hit on both sides of it. Remember, a chunk of the revenue that pays for pavement maintenance comes from the gas tax. The gas tax in Arizona is a fixed 18 cents per gallon. So regardless of what the cost per gallon is, we still only get 18 cents. Unfortunately, when the price goes up, people tend to buy less gallons of gas, and so we see revenue go down. But the same product, oil, that's driving the gas higher is also driving our expenses higher because that's the product in asphalt to repair the streets. So we're getting hit on both sides. So we need to be even more purposeful and strategic in getting the biggest bang for our buck in this program. What you'll see here is that we have done an exceptionally good job over the past decade and really got our pavement condition index up to a nice healthy number above average, and Kurt will go into that a little bit more detail. We're going to change philosophically directions a little bit and focus on the worst streets in Peoria. Generally, we've looked to stretch that dollars as far as possible, and that's heavily on the preservation side and a little bit lighter on the rehabilitation side. We're going to flip that a little bit so that we are really taking care of our bottom line. It's great to have a high average unless you're on the bottom side of that. Your street that you drive on is on the bottom side of that. Then it's no fun. So we're trying to get that minimum up, and you'll see the reasons for that. So we have tonight Rhonda Humbles, our Public Works Director, and Kurt Muehlmeyer, our Street Operations, who has just this meeting to get through to get off probation. So be as tough as possible, because this is his last day of probation, if we can get through it. So
No pressure.
No pressure.
No pressure.
so with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Humbles.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Council. Kurt and I appreciate the opportunity to present the overall results of the FY23 Technical Pavement Survey, along with an update to the city's pavement management plan to you this evening. Before we dive into the details of the presentation, I'd like to first point out that well-maintained roadways are essential for public safety to perform their jobs and to help attract and retain commercial activity for ease and access, ingress and egress. And finally, well-maintained roads contribute to the well-being of a community as commuters move throughout our city. The photos show good examples of recently completed projects on very highly traveled corridors. Okay, so much of what will be presented involves the term Pavement Condition Index, or commonly expressed as PCI. Basically, it's a numerical rating that is representative of the street's overall condition and the amount and severity of pavement distress that are present, such as cracks, ruts, and the overall quality of the road. We use these values to combine with our in-house historical data to track the rate of deterioration and to prioritize and identify each roadway for preservation and/or rehabilitation treatments as needed. So what does the PCI look like? These images provide some actual examples of PCI conditions we see and the range they fall in. Starting at the image on the left, this photo shows a newer street that has very few distresses, and the distresses that are present are very low in severity, resulting in a very high PCI. The center image, you can start to see a slightly more oxidized pavement, which would indicate the street is older and has some longitudinal and transverse cracking, along with a utility patch. The street also would have a high PC, but lower than the first photo. The image on the right shows some distresses that are much more prevalent than in the other photos. For example, the wide cracking, which can also impact the ride quality for this section. The last two images are representative of streets that have lower PCIs. The left image, you can see lots of cracking, block cracking and what we call alligator cracking, all indications that the pavement structure may be compromised. When compared to the image on the right, this section clearly has significant alligator cracking, the block cracking, and several areas that have lost their structural capacity and would be considered failed pavement. The streets team has some very talented team members that can generally and correctly place a street section in the correct PCI range by visual observation. However, in order to perform a more thorough PCI assessment of the nearly 8,000 sections within the city, we utilize the services of a consulting firm that specializes in roadway data collection. In FY23, we selected Transmap to perform this service. Transmap utilizes state-of-the-art technology that is regularly calibrated to ensure consistent and repeatable results to perform this data collection. The images show a couple of the vehicles that are used to collect this data, which includes a laser crack measuring system, multiple high-resolution cameras that can operate at high speeds, GPS, which is global positioning, as well as light detection and ranging, or LiDAR technology, all to produce a great 360 view of each roadway. This is not our first pavement survey. The first one was in 2017. There's a brief history of the automated pavement condition surveys that we have conducted, where it set a baseline of 72 and 17, went up, and then dropped a hair. We will discuss more of the details of this most recent survey as we move forward in the presentation. General industry standards emphasize less expensive preservation treatments early in the life cycle of the road, which is key, specifically within the first 20 years, much like recommended oil changes on your vehicle and preventive maintenance to help extend the life of your vehicle. It's the same concept for the roads. If you look closer at the results and the pie chart, 3% of Peoria roadways have a PCI lower than 50. 7% are between 50 and 60, and 20% of the roadways fall between 60 and 70 for PCI. The biggest slice is 70 to 85, where we fall, which is 43%, and it equates to approximately 293 miles. All-encompassing, 70% of Peoria roadways were rated at a 70 PCI or higher, with an overall citywide average of 74. Maintaining the high average PCI is due in part to not just careful collecting the survey data results, but also through careful evaluation and balancing the preservation and rehabilitation treatments to maximize the life cycle of our roads. All right.
So this slide is a typical pavement life cycle slide. You may have seen this before previously, but just to kind of summarize, on the top left-hand corner of that red line would be a new construction pavement. New construction pavement, even on day one, just like a car when you drive it off the car lot, starts to deteriorate, and the pace of that deterioration slowly picks up as the time goes on at the bottom and the pavement starts to age. So the goal of preservation is to hit those trigger points in that gray area and reset the life and extend it and do it over and over and over again. We've seen real-world examples where we can extend original pavement life 10, 20, and 30 years beyond what its original design life was. So speaking of preservation, the preservation treatments that we do here in Peoria, starting with the left, is seal coat. So this is the least costly preservation treatment that we do. It's almost exclusively applied to residential roadways with PCIs greater than 80. In the center is slurry seal. It's a little bit more robust treatment. You can actually see in the picture that the surface on the right was seal coated previous to the slurry seal. So this is a second treatment now on this roadway. And we typically apply this to residential roadways with a PCI greater than 70. And in the picture on the right, microsurfacing, much like slurry seal, very similar in appearance and look, but this is applied to arterial and collector roads, typically with a PCI of greater than 70.
If I could just add, Mayor and Council, as you go from left to right, the aggregate in the material is getting thicker. So the left side is almost exclusively oil. As you move to the right, you're getting thicker aggregate into it.
As we kind of get into the more robust treatments, we would consider all these rehabilitation treatments. So mill and overlay, very commonly used practice here, as you can see in the photos. And then you can also get into subgrade stabilization, which you see in the picture on the right. That's only required when you remove the entire pavement, the substrate of the pavement, and you have a weak or soft subgrade. So that picture there, they're cement treating the base. So that is Portland cement in the picture that they're injecting into the subgrade, tilling it up to create a much harder, much more desirable paving surface. You can see the costs from the preservation treatments to the rehabilitation treatments goes up significantly. These treatments are typically 10 to 100 times more costly than the preservation treatments. Also to note, all of these treatments here, the mill and overlay and the reconstructions, they require ADA upgrades to accompany this, and that can add 35% to the cost of these projects. So looking back, since 2020, and I recognize that, the blue line being the total inventory of roads in Peoria, and in comparison, the orange line and the green line are the roads that we've touched in the last 5 years. It doesn't look like a lot, and you can start to see the growth there a little bit from 663 centerline miles to 681 centerline miles, a little bit of growth, slow and steady growth. And then each year what our budget was, and then what we've preserved and rehabilitated. So it doesn't look like a lot. However, when you get into this slide, and you can start to see on the map all the roads that we've touched since fiscal year 2020, it starts to be a little bit more vast in how much we've actually treated along that in that time. In total, 270 miles of preservation, 35 miles of rehabilitation, 305 out of 681 miles treated. That's almost 50%, which would be almost equated to 10% a year, which is almost the industry standard. They prefer you to touch 10% of your roads per year, put your roads on a 10-year cycle, if you do the math there. So we're touching our roads once every 10 years, at a total cost in that period of $56.9 million. So if you remember earlier, Ms. Humbles mentioned that preservation is usually performed on the newer pavements, 20 years and newer. And you start to look at this in the age of Peoria's pavement. The chart tells us that only 36% of the roadways are 20 years or newer. This becomes a challenge due to potential structural concerns, prior treatments that were applied, and will likely result in the need to perform more rehabilitation, mill and overlays, instead of preservation, as Mr. Burke alluded to. This is more costly and will result in an increased backlog and eventually probably a lower PCI. So this information here, this is presented from Transmap and our consultant, and you can see, in FY23 we were at a 74 PCI. They're projecting that we would be at a 72.5 this fiscal year, and at a $15.6 million budget, which matches what our requests are in the CIP. They're forecasting we will be at a 66.5 in 2028. Now, I should also add that the previous model that was done by a different consultant actually projected we would be at a 69 this year, and so we outperformed that model, which is very much possible with this one as well. The model they produced claims that, or states that $23.7 million is needed to maintain the current 74 PCI. So anything short of that amount is going to result in a net decrease in the PCI values. So just as Mr. Burke mentioned earlier, we're going to start committing more funds towards rehabilitation projects to start to eliminate some of the lower PCI streets. And we'll address those first, not completely eliminating preservation, still focusing on preserving newer pavements, but start to work on the backlog. So this is just a quick snapshot of FY '24. Some of these projects are complete. Most of them are still in the works. We still have a laundry list of projects to complete in this fiscal year. But 86 miles is what we plan to treat at a cost of $16.3 million. Here's our FY '25 plan, 42 miles of preservation, 4 miles of rehab, 46 miles total, at a total cost of $14.7 million. And so just to conclude here, a couple items. We looked around to get some PCIs from some of our neighbors. And you can see in this chart that Peoria stacks up very well when you compare it to some of our regional partners, our regional neighbors here. We're not the top, but we're certainly nowhere near the bottom. And well above what the regional average of 67.5, so that's all great news. And again, just to reiterate, we outperformed the last survey that was done in the projections, and then beginning in FY '26 is when we're gonna really start to focus on reducing backlog, mill and overlay, more rehab, less preservation, and work towards eliminating the worst roads in the city of Peoria. And with that, that would conclude the presentation this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. One quick question. I don't know if I missed it on here. Is there a target number that we want for the city? It sounds like we're hovering right in the 72 to 74 range. Do we have a target number?
Mayor and Councilmember Finn, we've never set a target number. I mean, obviously, our goal is to get as high as we can and stretch those dollars as far as possible to get the highest PCI. Again, we're taking a little bit of a strategy change and letting that slide because when you're doing the rehabilitation, you're touching a lot fewer miles each year because each mile is so much more expensive. And so that's going to have an unfortunate effect. But again, in the long term, we're getting the base taken care of so that when we add the preservation, we can come back up more quickly. But no, sir, we've not ever set a specific number.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Actually, Councilmember Finn asked a question. I was going to say, do we have a PCI target? But a quick comment, Mayor. A big public thank you to Kurt and Rhonda and your team. Just within 2 weeks, I received email from constituents about potholes on Lake Pleasant Parkway, and within a week, they were fixed. So a big thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Rhonda, always interested in your book. I print it out like the Bible sometime. But I had a question for areas with new construction. So when a new housing development gets constructed and the roads are put in, are we going out and inspecting how that road's being put in so that we're making sure that it meets the minimum or the maximum standard that we want so that when we take it over, that it meets our standard then, rather than when we go back and do an overlay to make sure that it's sealed correctly before we take it over?
Mayor and Vice Mayor, that is correct. That's conducted through the engineering process, and then they sign off on it before they turn it over to Public Works for ongoing maintenance.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Representative.
Thank you, Mayor. Rhonda, I know you work off of a roadway repair schedule. Are there ever times when you veer from that schedule, either because of extenuating circumstances or, say, high citizens' complaints? And if you do veer from that schedule, does your decision, is it based on cost ever?
So it sounds like that was a multi-parter, Mayor and Council. Hopefully I can capture all of them. We have veered off in the past. It's not entirely uncommon to do that. Sometimes when we have a road such as that has heavy gator cracking in it, and we have an unseasonably wet weather, it can seep down into it and exacerbate the issue and move it up ahead. But generally, we do try to stick to the schedule as it's planned. As far as a cost, I believe you asked if there was a cost input to that. Generally, those are the ones where we do bring that to council. We have brought one to you recently to facilitate, just because the road had degraded to a point where it warranted sooner than later.
And Mayor and Councilmember Paten, if I could add to that, One of the things that sometimes affects us is construction adjacent to the road. So sometimes there'll be new projects that emerge where we're going to see a lot of heavy construction traffic entering and exiting the street, and we've said, let's not put new pavement down until that construction project is done to make sure we're getting the biggest bang for the buck. So sometimes we'll delay projects because of a condition like that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor and City Council.
Mayor Jason Beck was elected to a 4-year term in November 2022 and was sworn into office in January 2023. Mayor Beck is a Marine Corps veteran and is the founder and CEO of Tier Tactical, a Peoria-based business that provides body armor and tactical gear to military and first responders worldwide. His focus is on growing economic development citywide, strengthening public safety, and securing Peoria's water future and infrastructure. He is a husband and father to 6 boys.
Councilmember Bill Patena was first elected to the City Council to represent the Ironwood District in 2012 and was re-elected in 2016 and 2020. Councilmember Patena spent the last 18 years of his professional career with the City of Peoria as the Neighborhood Services Manager. In his ongoing service to the city, he maintains a strong interest in building and maintaining healthy neighborhoods and serves as the council liaison to the Veterans Memorial Board. The Patena family has lived in Arizona for over 30 years, with more than 20 of those in Peoria.
Mesquite District Councilmember Brad Schaefer was appointed to the City Council in April 2022 and was elected to the seat by the voters in November that same year. He previously served on the Peoria Planning and Zoning Commission and was the chair for both of the city's Bond Advisory and Charter Review Committees. Schaefer is also a U.S. Air Force veteran. He has earned his Master's of Business Administration, a bachelor's degree in Healthcare Administration, and has over 25 years of experience in the healthcare industry. He and his family enjoy spending time at Lake Pleasant or hiking the beautiful trails of Peoria.
Jennifer Crawford was elected in November 2022 to serve the Acacia District. She has more than 30 years of business and marketing experience in the private sector. With an emphasis in sales and management, she has operated small businesses, a nonprofit organization, and is currently self-employed as a consultant. With Old Town Peoria within her district, she is passionate about the revitalization of downtown. Her family has lived in Peoria since 2004, with her children attending Zuni Hills Elementary School and graduating from Liberty and Sunrise Mountain High Schools.
Palo Verde Councilmember Michael Finn was elected to City Council in 2014 and re-elected in 2018 and 2022. As a former Chief Financial Officer for the Peoria Unified School District, Finn was responsible for making sound fiscal policies that contributed to the district's success. He also brings over 20 years of additional leadership experience from his time with United Parcel Service and U.S. Airways. His family has lived in Peoria for more than 2 decades and enjoys engaging with the community.
Danette Dunn, who has lived in the Pine District since 2005, was elected by the voters during a special election held in August 2019 to serve on City Council. She was re-elected for a second four-year term in January 2023 and was appointed to serve as Vice Mayor. Dunn is focused on transportation management and economic development growth for our city. She is the founder of an environmental consulting agency which connects businesses with environmental stewardship, awareness, and social responsibility. She also served in government relations for Republic Services.
Willow District Councilmember John Edwards was first elected in 2012 and re-elected in 2016 and 2020. He has since served the council in various roles, most recently being elected Mayor Pro Tempore in 2023. He has served as a program and project manager for a computer services company for nearly 30 years. Edwards serves on a number of boards and committees, including the Maricopa Association of Governments Transportation Policy Committee, the Valley Metro Board of Directors, and the National League of Cities Community and Economic Development Committee. In previous years, he was involved with organizations including Westmark and Homeless Youth Connection. His family has lived in Peoria since 2001, and he believes in open communication and engaging with residents to keep them involved in important city decisions. The City Council meeting will begin shortly. Thank you for watching.
Meet your Peoria Mayor and City Council.
Mayor Jason Beck was elected to a four-year term in November 2020.
City Council welcome you to the Peoria City Council meeting. As a courtesy to others, please silence all phones. If you would like to address an issue that is on the agenda, or if you would like to speak to the council regarding a non-agenda item, please complete a speaker request form, which can be found in the front lobby of the Peoria City Council chambers or in the tray to the left of the speaker's podium. Please place the completed speaker request form in the second tray to the left of the speaker's podium labeled Request to Speak. All speakers will have 3 minutes to complete their comments. A countdown clock is easily visible on the left side of the wall behind the City Council dais. Only items listed on the agenda may be addressed by the council. Since items presented as part of a speaker's request have not been listed on the agenda, and due to the requirements of open meeting laws, the council will be unable to respond to items presented as part of the speaker's request. However, please be aware that your comments will be noted. The speaker's name will be called to speak at the appropriate time in the order that the forms were received. Thank you for your interest and participation in the Peoria City Council meeting.
Good evening and welcome to Peoria City Council meeting. I hereby call the meeting of February 6, 2024 to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Beck?
Here.
Vice Mayor Edwards?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Crawford?
Here.
Councilmember Finn?
Here.
Councilmember Patena?
Here.
Councilmember Dunn?
Here.
Councilmember Schaefer?
Present.
Councilor Youth Liaison Srivastava?
Here.
Councilor Youth Liaison Wetside?
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Please stand for the invocation by Father James Khalif from the St. Charles Catholic Church, and please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
A reading from the Book of Wisdom. To you, therefore, princes, are my words addressed, that you may learn wisdom and that you may not sin. For those who keep the holy precepts, hallowed shall be found holy, and those learned in them will have ready a response. Desire therefore my words, long for them, and you shall be instructed. Let us pray for the grace, gift of wisdom to our mayor and all the responsible members of our city, that they may be guided to take the right decisions and choices for the benefit of our people and the glory of God. And so we pray. My trustworthy Lord, we accept your call to go forth and share your love and mercy with others. Help us to always rely upon you and your providence and your wisdom in our mission to our people. Use us as you will, and help us to trust in your guiding hand for upbuilding of your glorious kingdom on earth and for the building up of our city. Jesus, I trust in you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If anyone would like to address the council about a matter, please submit a speaker request form, which can be found at the entrance of the room to the clerk at this time. We will now move to the consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are routine in nature and will be enacted with one motion unless requested for removal has been received prior to approval. Having approved no requests, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please vote. And the vote is 5-2. Thank you. We will now move to the regular agenda and to introduce new business. I now recognize City Manager Mr. Henry Darwin to introduce the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The first item on the regular agenda is agenda item 13R, the purchase and sale agreement of the Tohono O'odham Nation Colorado River Shortage Preparations Agua Fria Recharge Project. and it's to discuss and take possible action to approve entry into a purchase and sale agreement for long-term storage credits with the Tohono O'odham Nation to purchase 6,768 long-term storage credits for $2,977,920, and two, to approve the additional budget authority of up to $1.7 million necessary to complete this purchase. It has in my notes a note for the mayor that one long-term storage credit equals the right to withdraw 1 acre-foot of stored water from the ground, and 1 acre-foot equals 325,851 gallons water, or enough for approximately 3 average single-family homes for 1 year. So what we're talking about is approximately 2.2 billion gallons of water. So Dave, I don't know if you're going to cover that.
That was awesome. I don't need to now.
Because I'm like, what is it in gallons? That's the only
the mayor always wants everything converted to gallons. For those of us in the water industry, it's always acre feet. He likes gallons. But I want to introduce David Burks, our Water Services Director, along with our Water Resources Policy Analyst, Jenna Norris, who will present an agreement for your approval, the agreement I just mentioned, with the Tohono O'odham Nation to purchase long-term storage credits in preparation for a Colorado River shortage. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Mr. Darwin. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to allow our water resources expert to present to you this evening. The Water Services team, the Mayor and Council share a common priority. This priority is water security. Tonight, Jenna Norris, our Water Resources Analyst, is here to present an example of one of our ways our department is ensuring the future of our most precious resource for Peoria and its residents through collaborative partnerships. This proposal highlights a potential partnership with the Tohono O'odham Nation, and the Water Services Department is grateful to the nation for their collaboration on this matter. At this point, I'll turn it over to Jenna for the presentation.
Thanks, Dave. Mayor and Council, thank you for having me tonight. So I'm here to discuss possible action to approve entry into a purchase and sale agreement for long-term storage credits with the Tohono O'odham Nation, which will require an additional action to approve an additional budget authority of up to $1.7 million for the water supply budget. We'll get into the details now. So at last year's May 15th council meeting, Mayor and Council unanimously approved Peoria's entry into a system conservation implementation agreement. This was between the Bureau of Reclamation, City of Peoria, and the Central Arizona Water Conservation District. The water world loves our acronyms. That agreement is no exception, so I'm going to be calling it SCIA from here on out. Peoria was one of 6 other Arizona municipalities that entered into a SCIA, and over 18 agreements were inked in Arizona in total across various sectors, not just cities. However, all of these agreements were in pursuit of a shared goal, which is to reduce the amount of water that's withdrawn from Lake Mead and to keep that lake from dropping to critical levels. So under that agreement, Peoria agreed to leave 7,200 acre feet, or for Mayor Beck, 2.35 billion gallons of its CAP.
Don't even act like I'm the only one up here that does not convert that.
That was kind of handed to me. So, of its annual CAP water allocation for up to 3 calendar years. So that would be for calendar year 2023, 2024, and 2025. There is a compensation component of this agreement as well, which I will get into on this slide. So there are 2 financial components associated with this SCIA participation. First, in exchange for conserving that 7,200 acre feet of water in calendar year 2023, the Bureau of Reclamation made a payment to Peoria for approximately $2.88 million. That equals about $400 an acre foot for the 7,200. That's where that comes from. This sum of money was intended to help advance Peoria's water security in face of looming Colorado River reductions. So that money was set aside and held separately from the water supply budget for future use, such as what is being proposed today. In addition to the revenue from participating in the SCIA, there's also a savings component. That's that second bullet. So we gained a savings from CAP. The way that worked is that we were refunded approximately $1.56 million for the 7,200 acre feet of water that we paid for in calendar year 2023, but was never ultimately delivered to us because we left it on Lake Mead intentionally, and so that was refunded to us. That sum of money was returned to the water supply budget. So for fiscal year 2024, I've projected that in large part due to that 1.5 million in savings, the water supply budget will land at the end of the year, fiscal year, at about 1.38 million under budget. We're going to come back to some of this, but I'm laying it out here first. So, to prepare for future Colorado River reductions, the water Peoria left in Lake Mead would ordinarily have been used to generate long-term storage credits. Again, one long-term storage credit is equal to 1 acre-foot of water. It's a 1-to-1 conversion there. These credits are created by storing renewable water in aquifers underground in designed recharged facilities, so you'll hear the water recharged. The credits can then be accessed in the future through pumping nearby wells located near those facilities. So the 7,200 acre-feet voluntarily dedicated to system conservation would have equated to Peoria earning 6,768 acre-feet of credits in that same year. The reason that those two numbers don't equal is because the state, when you store water underground, assesses losses from actual physical losses due to evaporation and other hydrologic components that they calculate. So it is the Peoria staff's goal to ensure that the city's balance of credits is not impacted by participating in the SKIA, as storing water underground is a really critical part of preparing for a future with less Colorado River water. To that end, we are proposing that Peoria enter into a purchase and sale agreement with the Tohono O'odham Nation to replace the credits that would have been created if Peoria had taken delivery of its full CAP allocation in calendar year 2023. In January of this year, so just last month, the Nation's Council approved the purchase and sale agreement that's before you today, and they have agreed to sell Peoria 6,768 credits at a purchase price of $440 per credit. That's a total price of $2.97 million approximately. The exact full purchase price is listed on the slide in front of you. Another important consideration for this particular purchase and sale agreement is that the credits we would be purchasing are really optimally located for Peoria. They are stored at the Agua Fria constructed underground storage facility. This is a facility located east of Loop 303 and north of Happy Valley Road. It's within the riverbed of the Agua Fria River. That picture on your screen is actually the start of the upstream portion of that facility and the managed side of it. So in recent years, we have really prioritized sending our CAP allocation to this particular recharge facility due to its proximity to two important well fields for the city. One being the planned CAP Lake Pleasant Parkway intersection well field project, which council has supported, and the other being an existing well field that borders the southeastern side of the Vistancia community. So this, the water stored in this facility is positively impacting both of those well fields. Okay, so we're going to recap the financial bit now. So the approximately $2.9 million purchase price for the credit purchase and sale agreement is covered both by the projected $1.38 million in savings from the water supply budget, plus a portion of the $2.88 million in revenue from participating in the SKIA. Completing the purchase will require council approve a one-time budget amendment authorizing additional spending authority for the water supply budget to be able to use that portion of the $2.8 million in revenue. So to summarize, staff is recommending that council enter into the purchase and sale agreement with Tohono O'odham Nation and approve a one-time amendment to the water supply budget authorizing that additional spending authority of approximately $1.7 million. That is it for me, and if you have any questions, I will do my best to answer them. Thank you.
Any questions? Nope. All right, thank you for your presentation. Do I have a motion on 14R?
Mayor, I'll so move to approve.
I'll second.
Please vote. Thank you. Passes 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing it in gallons for everybody else up here that doesn't want to admit it.
All right, need need to turn my mic on. So, Mayor, the next item on the agenda is agenda item number 14R. It's the fiscal year 2023 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report and Auditor Communications. The action before you is to discuss and take possible action to receive and accept the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report and Auditor Communications for the fiscal year ending in June 30th of 2023. So each year, the city's financial accounts are audited by an independent certified public accountant. This assures transparency and good governance of public funds. Sean Kendall, our Chief Financial Officer, will facilitate the discussion, and Richard Gillespie from the auditing firm of Clifton Larson Allen will present their audit report and findings. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Darwin. Mayor, Council, we're here tonight to present the annual comprehensive financial report. I don't remember all the words to it. We call it the ACFR. But really, the most important thing tonight is to give you guys the opportunity to hear from our auditors on how the audit went, anything that they found in that, and any communications that come out of that for governance. So with that being said, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Gillespie from Clifton Larson Allen, our independent auditors, and he will take it from here.
All right. Good evening, Mayor Beck, Vice Mayor Edwards, and members of council. As Sean mentioned, I'm Richard Gillespie with Clifton Larson Allen. I'm a manager at the firm. I oversaw the audit. Bob Callanan was the principal and signer of the report with the final review on our side. To get things started, I'll briefly go over the purpose of an audit. We examine and verify management's assertions that the financial statements are free from material misstatement, and then we provide an opinion on the financial statements. During that process, we evaluate risk, as well as include any findings and recommendations that we find throughout the audit. But most importantly, our work is for and should be communicated to the governing board, which is City Council, and that keeps us independent from management of the city. The governance communication included in the council packet includes all the required communications from the audit firm to council. I'll briefly go over the communications. We go over the accounting policies used by management in the drafting of the financial statements and the accounting that goes into the financial statements. We evaluate the accounting estimates. Those are all estimates that management determines through inputs that have a significant impact on balances on the financial statements, noting that all of those management estimates appear reasonable. There were 4 uncorrected misstatements, which these are uncorrected past adjustments, where these are all amounts that aren't material but are or large enough to where we kind of accumulate and make sure that in total they don't materially affect the financial statements of the city. There were no disagreements with management throughout the audit, and there was no delays in the audit process. We did render an unmodified or clean opinion on the financial statements. And then lastly, there was no material weaknesses in internal control and no significant deficiencies in the financial statement process, and no material misstatements identified by the auditor. One thing that we do have pending is the single audit report, which is the federal compliance portion of the audit. It's due March 31st, 2024, and right now there's no reason why we wouldn't meet that deadline for the city. It's basically been reviewed, just pending kind of final review on our side. So that's pretty much all I had. I don't know if there's any questions for council.
Any questions at all? No?
Mayor, quick question.
Councilor Schaefer?
Thank you, Mayor. So just quick summary. So in summary, there was no audit findings, and outside of, like you said, the federal requirement that's March 31st, and you have no concern of meeting that, correct?
Yes, there's no internal control findings or material misstatements over the financial statements, the annual comprehensive financial report. We're still working on finalizing the federal portion of the audit.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. With that, do I have a motion to approve agenda item 14R? Do I have a second? Second. And it sounds like I have a third, so let's please vote. And it passes 7-0. Thank you for your presentation.
All right, thank you.
Next on the agenda item is call to the public. As a reminder, each speaker will direct his or her comments to the members of the governing body and not to any individual member or other individuals present. Each speaker will refrain from personal attacks, foul or abusive language, and will maintain a civil and courteous manner and tone. Members of the audience will respect the rights of others and will not create noise or disturbances that will disrupt the speaker or the meeting. So with that, I have one speaker request form, Ms. Eva Osuna. You know where that button's at.
Good evening. I'm going to try to do this with a lot of grace, and I need a lot of prayers, so. I don't typically come up and talk about this kind of thing, but I'm kind of disappointed that the raise for the city manager was not on the regular agenda. And I'm really surprised that none of the council members are addressing it either, because first of all, I'm not even sure that the city manager's been here a year. I worked for the government for almost 30 years. I know how they run. And there are policies in place. The whole hiring of the chief of police debacle, removal of this fountain out here without public input. I know that I was restricted from, nobody wanted to respond to my emails, and I understand that it was a directive from the city manager. I may be wrong, but that really, really causes me concern. And I depend on all of you to be the ears and eyes and monitor to see if our city manager is doing the best that he can do. I don't think he had any city management experience. And even former city managers, I used to get phone calls on the weekends from them. I had communication with them. And it was clear and it was transparent. And I did not agree with that. A lot of the city managers, especially the last one, but you know what? There was honesty and there was respect. And I want that. And even with the mayor, the former mayor, she and I did not agree on everything, but let me tell you, she returned my phone calls, she answered my emails, and at least we had that. We didn't agree on everything. And that's what I need. I want for my council to be as transparent and as responsive as they can be. Now, I have egg on my face because I talked to a lot of people about the new high school that was going to be built, no bonds, no new taxes, but yet we're getting a joint use park that we're going to have to pay taxes on. So it's not true that we're not going to have to pay taxes for that school because we're going to pay it in the form of paying for that park. So there's a lot. I mean, I'm still waiting for the mayor's State of the City address because we get one of those every year. We haven't had one. And I look forward to those kinds of, I didn't get to go to the budget meeting this past week, and I would like to know what was discussed. I don't know how I can get that information. I want to see what was advocated for my district. I want to know what was advocated for Acacia District because I'm very invested in Acacia. I've been here all my life, and I care about this city. And I've always said, all I want is a quality city to live in. And the gentleman that spoke last week, he alluded to, we see what's going on. We see what's going on with this council. It's very evident. And I hope that I didn't offend anyone. I hope I did it with grace, but I have a lot of concern. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, ma'am. Next is, with that being no one else, that's the only one. Okay. Report from the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I wanted to update you on a few items with our fire medical department. Firstly, 5 new fire recruits started the academy on January 29th and will graduate on April 26th. We also closed the new hire applications on January 21st and conducted our first round of interviews. There were over 200 applicants. 8 firefighters started paramedic school in January. And to maintain credibility and standards, we are certifying 25 additional Peoria Fire medical captains as incident safety officers. This certification will increase firefighter safety. And lastly, the fire department premiered the first fire department documentary produced by our very own Channel 11 staff on January 25th at the old fire station 191 in downtown Peoria. This was an impressive piece of work produced by our Office of Communications to highlight the role of our city's first responders and the amazing acts of courage they perform daily. I want to also give you an update on our participation in the CHIPS Act. Just to give you a bit of background, in July of 2022, Congress passed the CHIPS Act of 2022 to strengthen domestic semiconductor manufacturing, design, and research, fortifying the economy and national security, and reinforcing America's chip supply chains. Our economic development team recently met with the senior policy advisors with the Federal CHIPS Office to continue to make sure that they are aware of Peoria becoming a semiconductor hub and to learn more about how they can support our ecosystem by not only funding the companies locating in Peoria, but also supporting workforce development strategies and programming. The CHIPS Office is responsible for allocating funds to the semiconductor companies semiconductor companies onshore and grow chips in the U.S., growing chips. That's like potatoes, right? They are looking to support cities that are creating an ecosystem like Peoria, in which we are doing a lot to recruit and support this important supply chain. I wanted to give a quick update on some historic downtown redevelopment and some restaurants that we have planned for downtown. In late October 2023, our Development and Engineering and Finance and Materials Management launched a qualifications-based solicitation for a highly qualified design-build team to design and construct one or more restaurant/retail buildings in downtown Peoria. The city received 7 design-build team proposals representing local and national talent for this unique project type. 4 teams progressed from the written submittal forward to the interview phase. Panel interviews led by internal staff and a statute-required contractor were held on January 16th after the final shortlist rankings were announced. A.R. Mays with Nelson Partners Architects and Planners was selected as the most qualified design and construction team for the project. Each entity will bring to this smaller venture a vast portfolio of restaurant planning, design and construction experience. And scope and fee negotiations with the design-build team commence in early February of this month, with a target first design engagement in mid-March. Just going to talk a little bit about our utility box art program. I'm sure a lot of you have seen those in and around Peoria. This is a program that started in 2019 to bring public art to the neighborhoods throughout Peoria. It's a unique opportunity for Peoria artists of all ages and abilities to showcase their work to a larger audience. In the 2023-2024 Call to Artists, we received 65 submissions. 26 utility boxes are currently wrapped throughout the city, and 14 boxes will be added this year with installations to begin this month. Half of all boxes will be re-wrapped every 2 years. And I'd like to thank APS and Park West for their partnership in this program. And then I also want to mention a success story in dealing with some of our residents that are looking for an opportunity or a venue to showcase their passion. So Space Dogs and Catering LLC and their partners and participants have held 4 car shows in the Peoria Sports Complex West Lot since late November. They used those events to publicize and support the Peoria Diamond Club's annual holiday toy drive, resulting in an additional 50 gifts donated for charitable effort. All vehicle makes, models, and years are welcome to these shows, with approximately 100 cars participating each date so far. So prior to this, this was essentially a loosely organized, traveling, social media-driven car show that was actually disrupting some areas in the cities where they were trying to congregate. So instead of prohibiting or trying to curtail those activities, we met with them, and they've jumped at the opportunity to have an opportunity to temporarily home this unique community opportunity, and we look forward to working with them to make this more popular and grow for the benefit of the community. It's actually a really good success story. And then lastly, I want to show a video about some upcoming special events for February and March of this year. Mayor and Council, that's my report for the evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Report from Council Youth Liaisons. Ally?
Thank you, Mayor. Recently, the Youth Advisory Board held its second annual Teen Debate Night. It was a lot of fun, and the feedback from our team is that we enjoyed our small conversations with various youth around Peoria discussing concerns in our city. And our goal going forward is to have more youth attend and to get it bigger each year. We have also been building our partnership with 3PC with our volunteer opportunities, and on the 8th, we'll be able to attend a virtual meeting for that.
Awesome. Anna?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. And with it now being February, Youth Government Day is on the 27th and 29th of this month. We're going to have a representation of 300 8th graders from every Peoria Unified School District with 150 on each day. And we all look forward to engaging with these students and giving them this opportunity. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. And the mayor's report. So I've got kind of a long one, so I'll try to be short. Today is, or this week, January, is Anti-Human Trafficking Month. This is something that is near and dear to my heart. I was on the board of Streetlight and the chairman of Streetlight for a number of years, and our goal with that organization was to try to get girls off the street that were being trafficked, and get them healing, get them a place of kind of change in their life, and try to get them healthy and to the next step. Today, Arizona ranks in the top 15 states in terms of human trafficking per capita. In signing this proclamation, I hope to bring awareness to this issue within local communities. We have a big part to play in keeping our cities and residents safe, and also taking care of these young girls and both boys and girls that are actually trafficked across America. This is a scourge that's in our country. It's a scourge that's in our world, and we need to constantly look, evaluate, pay attention, and try to do something about it. So February is as Career and Technical Education CTE Month. Strong CTE programs. I'm going to put my glasses on here because now that I'm closer to 52 than I am 51. Education and modern workforce. I've always been a strong proponent of CTE and look forward to continuing our support across our local schools. We have a great engineering program that we've actually participated a lot with here locally. Our streets department, the gentleman that runs our Lights and Streets program, actually had his son, I hosted, I want to say it was almost 60 engineering students in my personal business. And, you know, I make body armor for a living and blow stuff up and shoot stuff. And I'm surely that all these kids want to do exactly what I wanted to do by the time I shot all this stuff in front of them. And I go, doesn't everybody want to go shoot items and stop bullets? And this young man goes, I want to design traffic lights, sir. And I'm like, who is your father? He goes, he works for the city of Peoria. I'm like, exactly. That's exactly what. So definitely a father's impact on that young man, and hopefully a future engineer for the city of Peoria is coming out of that. So spring training in Savannah Bananas, we saw this before, but February 15th, 16th, and 17th. If you did not have the opportunity to attend last year, this was an amazing event. Everybody had fun at it, from kids to old. We all had a blast, and really wanted this to come back more. Our Parks Department really tried to focus on this. In fact, we actually tried to tie down the owner of the Savannah Bananas immediately following this, and we really didn't leave the parking lot until he actually tried to confirm that he was coming back this year. This is a great way to get city engagement, city involvement. And it's just a lot of fun and drives revenue to the city, so we're really excited about them coming back. Spring training officially kicks off February 22nd. The tickets are available now, and spring training provides a great opportunity to enjoy the outdoors and support our local economy. And kids that are not even into baseball enjoy what the city of Peoria puts on. It's a great venue, great event, and everybody really seemed to love it over the years. This last week, we had a city council workshop. Last week, the council wrapped up its annual workshop to discuss upcoming priorities and our vision for Peoria's growth. This council is pressing forward on our commitment to supporting the three pillars of public safety, securing our water future, and strengthening the future of the city's economic development. We also met with legislators 2 weeks ago on Friday. This month, Peoria's executive leadership met with those legislators to discuss areas of collaboration for our future. Last year, Peoria was fortunate to receive an outstanding support from our local legislators, and we look forward to building that relationship even further. So, finally, tragedy unfortunately struck the Peoria community over the last several weeks. Last week, we had a Vistancia Elementary School student that was tragically struck by a vehicle and later succumbed to those injuries. This little boy was 8 years old. Every single time I go through a parking lot, every single time I see, I'm a father of 6, and a lot of us have children up here. When we see this and we hear these stories, it breaks not only our heart, but it makes us want to reach out to our community and try to make a difference. We really need to try to pay attention to these aspects and really, more importantly, reach out to other parents in their time of need. It's what community is supposed to be about, and tragically, this family is impacted dramatically. So I ask that you keep this family in the school. I've talked to the superintendent, the principal last week. The superintendent and these teachers that are there are impacted because they're the family of the student. That student's there 7 to 8 hours a day. So the community of Estancia, but also the community of Peoria is impacted as a whole when something like this happens. I just ask you to keep them in your prayers and be thoughtful of them. So late in December, Councilmember Edwards Patena and I attended a community event for a 14-year-old boy named Tyson. At the time, Tyson was in terminal stage, I'm not even going to pronounce this, osteosarcoma, form of cancer. Had entered into hospice care at home. Peoria PD, fire, and literally hundreds throughout the community. Members drove by Tyson's house in their trucks, motorcycles, vehicles. Congressman Debbie Lesko came by as well and to show their support in his final days. Mid-January, Tyson tragically passed away. The loss of life, and I think he's at his services at CCB, I think this Thursday or something like that. This young man was excited about every single motorcycle that came by, every single car that came by. You know, we did not get anybody any permission to speed or anything else like that, but just the raring of the engines you could see the enthusiasm in this young man as he was going through his final days, and it brought a brightness towards the end of his life. So it was very nice to actually see the community come out and actually do that. The loss of life is always difficult. The loss of our youngest residents are often excruciating. In this time of difficulty, it's ever important for us to rally around each other and keep the community united. And please keep those families in your thoughts and prayers. So with that, I hate to end on a bad note, but that was kind of a sad thing. We've had, again, a great year, a lot of momentum forward. I'm really excited about the next couple of weeks of what we're going to be presenting in front of the city. Thank you. We're adjourned.